Welcome to the Liberty Show, where we talk about American classical education and our ambition to form knowledgeable, virtuous citizens in K-12 American classical charter schools, what we think are great for kids and families. They enrich communities and they strengthen the nation. My name is Matthew Kirby. I'm the CEO of Liberty Classical Schools, and one of our goals is to develop 10 schools in 10 years. We hope to be serving about 9,000 students and graduating hundreds of strong citizens every single year. We're using this podcast to talk about the people and the ideas that are behind this movement. And it is my great pleasure to get to do that because I get to talk to people that I really admire and respect for many, many reasons. And today we are joined by Doris Moss, who is the Literature Department Chair at Atlanta Classical Academy in one of her roles. And in another role, she is a board member of Northwest Classical Academy, our second school, which is in Kennesaw, Georgia, about 25 minutes north and west of Atlanta. And on top of that, she is an incredible mother. And I want to talk to her about that too, because she's had great success. And I think we can all learn from her wisdom and experience. And another thing I just love about Doris is her directness. So I think that is a huge strength of yours, and I value it very much. So Doris and I have had kind of a unique relationship in that, she's been an employee of our flagship school, Atlanta Classical Academy, where she's had an unbelievable impact on the literature department there, serving our kids and really supporting our teachers in so many ways. But she's also been somebody to whom I report as a board member at Northwest Classical Academy. It's an interesting dynamic. And anyway, just really value your service and commitment to all of those things.
Thank you.
So welcome, Doris.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I'll talk about liberty anytime I can.
Good. Well, I want people to know of your story and sort of how you got into teaching and how you got to where you are. Maybe we'll start there and then we'll sort of move forward into your experience with us at our schools. So I guess when I think about you strike me as a person who was probably an excellent student. Is that true?
I was determined.
Okay.
I want to make it work and I want to do well. So yes, I probably was.
Did you, so education was valued in your home? What was your home life like?
It really was. Yes. My mother actually went to Columbia University for graduate school in the years when women did not go to college, much less women from Georgia move up to New York City and go to graduate school. So I think it's accurate to say education was really valued in our family. I remember anytime I learned not to ask my father questions because he would go to the encyclopedia, open it up, and keep me there for an hour.
Yeah.
When all I wanted was yes or no, black or white. But I learned more than I wanted to know. So yes, it was valued in my family, absolutely.
What did your mother study at Columbia?
Probably French. She ended up as a Latin teacher. She was my Latin teacher, actually. So
okay.
I would say French was probably her major. And then she, this was during World War II, she left that job to work for the Bureau of Censorship, if you can remember that there ever was such a thing.
Interesting. Yes, yes.
Her job was to translate every letter that came into the United States that was written in French and look for suspicious things.
Wow. How interesting.
We did that back then.
Yeah. Without the use of AI even.
Absolutely. She just translated them all.
Yeah. Okay, so your childhood was in Georgia?
Yes, that's right. I grew up in Rome, outside of Rome, Georgia, on a farm, and then we moved into town, and I went to the Rome City Schools. I'm a public school girl, right and left.
Okay, and then how about other elements of your education? Where'd you go to school after?
Well, after that, I went to Virginia Tech and majored in English. After that, I did go to a private school. I went to a Christian seminary in Portland, Oregon for a couple of years and got a master's in music. Then taught school in the Portland area for a while. Then after that, we started our family. So I took some time off and then went back to teaching years later. Ended up getting a master's in literature from Florida Atlantic University. So I have a public school certificate in music and in English literature.
And you are our official organist for Atlanta Classical Academy.
That's right. I do have that ability.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing skill. At what point in your life did you know that you wanted to teach?
That would, I would say it was when I had graduated from college, and it was kind of a practical thing, to be honest with you. It was very pragmatic. My husband was in graduate school, and I needed a job, and Portland schools were hiring, and I knew I could do it. But
Yeah.
at that moment, during that time, it was only a 2-year experience right then. My principal came to me and said, "You're really good at this. You should consider doing this long term," because he knew I had just sort of picked up the job because I needed a job. And that's the moment at which I began to think, wow, maybe I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
And I still remember it to this day. And to me, that speaks to the power that teachers have in the lives of young people, to say to them, "You're really good at this. This is
Yes.
this is an ability that you have, and you need to develop it." And to me, that's what we do at our classical schools. They're not huge. We don't have thousands of students. We know every single student, and we have those conversations with them. This is what you're really good at.
Yeah.
This is where I can see you developing. And the power of those comments on young people's lives, I just don't think we can underestimate that.
If I could just comment on that, of how true that is, especially as a dad raising kids who have also been at our schools. And it seems to me that somewhere in the middle years is when our students, our children, start to look to other sources
That's
outside
right.
of the home
That's
for
right.
affirmation, for guidance, for encouragement. And it is such an important thing you just said. I mean, the question parents can ask is like, who will be around my children when they look and when they ask and when they need? And I mean, for you, how cool was that? You had a person in
That's
your
right.
life, your principal.
That's
You were,
right.
of course, a young adult at that time, but that
Right.
person said a quick phrase to you, perhaps,
That's right.
and
That's right.
it impacted you significantly.
So what had been a job to pay the bills became a career.
Yeah.
Became a lifetime. I think of what we do at Atlanta Classical when we have our 8th grade meetings. At the end of every school year, we meet individually with every student and their families. And all of their teachers gather around, and they speak into that student's life.
Yes.
This is what I've seen in you. This is how you've responded in class. This is how you've encouraged your classmates. This is the way I've seen you be courteous to other students. I've seen you every day. And this is what I've seen. I'll tell you that those meetings invariably involve tears.
I mean, I'm practically tearing up hearing you describe it. I've attended a few of those, and you're right.
And for parents to hear that their teachers not only want their students to succeed academically, but they see their students and they know them. It's a really unique aspect of what we do.
It really is, and I love that we do it. I love that our team could conceive of the idea, that was aware of the need. I mean, there was a time we didn't do it.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden it was like we did do it. And why did we do it? Because we realized that these probably 14-year-old kids, most of them, needed some encouragement, needed some affirmation, and needed to know that other people were seeing their good work and drawing out the best that they have.
Well, they're starting high school. That's a whole new world for them. And we want them to go into our high school knowing that we already know who they are. They don't have to carve out some new, I'm going to be a whole new person. I'm going to launch some sort of image. People here love me and people here know me.
Yeah.
And this is just the next step in my education. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be really rigorous. It's going to be difficult and challenging. And we support them. We want them to know what's ahead. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. But we are there with you every step of the way, and we know you, and we love you, and we're going to help you.
Yeah. That is incredible. That is the ethos.
What parent wouldn't want that? Right?
We hope to perpetuate that everywhere we go.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. I think the K-12-ness of our schools allows for that. It means that a 8th or 9th grader is likely to stumble into their 4th or 5th grade teacher here and there around campus, and they're known. They're known. They're going to be remembered and known. I think those are all excellent attributes. I'm curious to know of your So now we're in these classical schools, American classical schools, we would even say. But you grew up in a public school.
I did.
And maybe even so the schools that you taught in were public schools originally.
Some public, some private.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you distinguish? I guess if you were to speak to a young prospective teacher, part of what we're hoping to do with the podcast is appeal to broad audience that would have an interest. Some of those may be aspiring teachers.
Mm-hmm.
How would you encourage a teacher to come to a classical school to start their teaching career as opposed to maybe and I'm not asking you to sell against anybody, but what are the major attributes of an American classical school for a new teacher?
I've thought about this a lot because the last thing I would ever do is disparage what other teachers are doing.
Right.
All the schools I've worked in, all the schools I know about, the schools that my grandchildren go to, which they don't live in Atlanta, there's no classical opportunity for them. Their teachers are working so hard.
Yeah.
Nobody goes into this job to relax.
Right.
It's just not a thing.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I would ever do is disparage the efforts of any other kind of school and what they're doing. They all have their own missions, but this is America, and we have a choice.
Yeah.
We have the freedom to choose the education that best fits our child. And so what I would say to a teacher, if I wanted to recruit that teacher, is this is the place for you to come if you love your subject matter, and you carry within your heart a desire for students to know and understand history, to know and understand science. How does this world even work? To think of themselves not as good at math or bad at math, but mathematics is part of our world and they are competent. I want our students to walk out of our schools with a confidence that they know how to live in this world.
Yeah.
They have an understanding of the world. It's only an 18-year-old's understanding, but it's an understanding of how to live in this world. And so I would say to a teacher, if that's what you want to do, then this is where you should teach. You won't be encumbered by various requirements that you might be encumbered by in other places. You will be free to teach what you love. Your students, if you were to walk, all we really have to do to recruit teachers is have them visit our school.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
if they visited other schools and then they visit Atlanta Classical and they walk into a literature classroom and there are 27 students with a book open, a notebook, and a pen in hand, leaning forward, listening, and participating. If that's what you want, and that's what every English teacher wants, then this is where you need to be.
Yeah.
This is where you need to be. There's a focus. For example, we don't have our students in middle school consistently write about themselves. That's a thing that is sort of, it's an idea that students will read books that are about people like them, contemporary teenagers. They will write about their own problems and their own thoughts. That we don't do it that way at Atlanta Classical. We think that especially young teenagers need to have their horizons broadened. They maybe need to think less about themselves and how they feel. You know, taking the emotional temperature every day can not always be helpful.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So often opening their vision, giving them something else to think about, showing them that people everywhere suffer the same things that they do, and this is how they work through it. That's what we do.
So one of the things I want to do in this interview, if I can pull it off, I want to read back to you some quotes that come from a speech you made at graduation a few years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
And because you did such a fabulous job with that. So there's one of the quotes relates to what you were just describing. One of the things you said, you are whom you have encountered at ACA. Mm. That was one of your lines from your speech. You are whom you have encountered at ACA. What do you remember that? And
I do, and I think that that recalls what you've said about how important it is who young people are surrounded by, the kind of people they are surrounded by.
Also the curriculum, though, right? I mean, also the greats that we study.
Right. I want my students to remember what what Atticus Finch said in To Kill a Mockingbird, that you won't really understand a person until you've walked a mile in his shoes.
Yeah.
That's what I want to shape them. We to think about the essential questions of the text, and that's who I want this. That's what I mean when I say you are what you have encountered at ACA. Yeah. I don't care if they don't remember the characters' names and what color dress they wore in chapter 12. I'm never going to give them a multiple choice question about that. I want what shapes their hearts. We are unapologetically after our students' hearts.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think many schools perhaps are actually after their students' hearts, but in ways that perhaps they're not as direct and deliberate about. We will tell you the first day your child comes to ACA, this is what we are after in your child's heart. We are after them to become an honest person, a courageous person, a humble person, a self-governing person. That's the hard one.
Really hard.
We want your child to learn that everything they feel like thinking, saying, or doing, they shouldn't think, say, or do. And we're unapologetic about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So a lot of that comes through literature, the books that we select.
It does. The study of history.
The study of history, for sure.
What was the outworking of this policy? What were the results of that?
Yeah. Maybe a little bit about, one of the things that we sell is that our students ultimately speak and write well. And you've been heavily,
you're up my alley.
Yeah,
Mr.
you've been heavily involved in these
That's
things.
Right.
And I'm curious, maybe a little bit about, first of all, how Atlanta Classical has evolved in its teaching of writing, and then what are we really attempting to do? What is the approach to the teaching of writing in our schools? So,
writing is fundamental to what we do because it shows the mastery of the English language itself. But how often have you written an email and then paused and rewritten it because it didn't say exactly what you wanted to say, and puzzled yet again to be sure it says exactly what you want to say? It is in the process of writing that your thinking becomes concrete.
Yes.
And you think you understand something in science, but until you try to write it down, that's when you realize you don't exactly understand how this works. Right. And I've had that experience in classes before. I've asked students such a simple question as, why is it hot in the summer and cold in the winter? Write me down the answer for why that is the case. And in the process of doing that, they'll say things like, well, the earth is closer to the sun. No, that can't be right. And you can see the wheels turning. Like, I know why, but I'm having trouble. It is in the writing process that they realize what they're missing.
It is ordering your thinking.
That is exactly right.
Respects.
That's exactly right.
And how do we do you think we stage that differently than other schools? I mean, how do we conceive of that process, kind of thinking through like, the lower school, the middle ages, the high school? How does that work?
Well, I think we have evolved in how we do that. We're now using Institute for Excellence in Writing in our grades 3 to 6 at Atlanta Classical, and actually 3 to 8 at Northwest Classical. So that's a very scripted. The best thing about that, I could say many good things about that program, but one of the best things about it is it's just a scripted curriculum. It tells the teachers exactly how to teach their students how to write. And before that, I think without such a thing, teachers are often left to their own devices. And many times default to the kind of writing that will be expected on the Georgia milestones. And we want to move past that. I mean, we are, part of our creed is to be good citizens, and we are going to be good citizens, and we are going to take the Georgia milestones seriously. Yeah. But we are going to ask more of our students than the simple scripted kind of writing that might require. Yeah. So that, I guess, if that answers your question, that's sort of that's our basis in composition. I teach ninth grade composition at Atlanta Classical, and the foundation of that is the classical tradition for teaching writing is imitation. So our students will be given a short selection by Mark Twain, and they will write on their own topic, but they'll write in the imitation of Mark Twain. We'll ask them to describe something that they have seen. An event that they have observed, we'll ask them to describe it imitating the writing of Lord of the Flies, chapter 3 of Lord of the Flies. So it's direct imitation of another writer. And that's the classical approach to composition.
Which, incidentally, we do in the visual arts as well. That's also kind of a similar approach to...
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So imitation is, I think, just relying on students to, out of their heads, come up with writing is difficult. We're also going to be using the Writing Revolution 2.0 this year in our middle school. We're just deliberate about our writing instruction. That's the best way I could say
Which, of course, culminates in the senior thesis, which is an epic
That's right.
project.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can't just begin to write a 15-page paper if you haven't written consistently along the way. We have what we call Friday Writes. Every Friday, our middle school students write. They spend the entire class period writing, and we ask them to not only write about the literature that they're reading, but whatever the grammar concept of the week is. We've been studying varying your sentence structure. So the requirements on the Friday Write will be answer a sort of thought, a deep level thought question about the text. And in your writing, start 3 of your sentences with a participial phrase or introductory adverb clause, because that's what we just talked about. We don't just drop it on them. We did just teach that Tuesday.
Yeah. What would you say to the parent that's considering moving their children to one of our schools? Maybe they're in the middle grades.
Right.
Did not necessarily grow up in a classical school.
Sure.
Is it achievable? Can they make it? What would you say?
I would say yes, they should do it. And we've made some concrete steps in helping incoming students acclimate to our curriculum. The first thing they need to know, and their student needs to know, is it's going to be more challenging. They should expect harder work, and they should expect more homework. And of course, they should expect the cultural things. They're going to have to wear a uniform, and when we describe the way the uniform needs to look, it actually does need to look that way every day that they come to school. So from a student's perspective, those are sometimes the only 2 things they get when they first come to Atlanta Classical. It's a strict school, and there's an awful lot of homework. And it takes a while for the students to buy into exactly what we're doing if they've never done it before. But they do buy in. Just this last May, one of our brand new students who had just come to us in the spring spoke about what she thought when she first came to Atlanta Classical and what she thinks now at the end of her first year. And it was so beautiful. Yeah. She understands. She understands what she's bought into. And it's still hard. It's still hard for her. And parents need to know that as well. When for example, I say to parents, if your student tells you they don't have any homework, I can tell you they are probably not quite telling you the truth, because every night they have 30 minutes of literature to read. But that's what I would tell them. They should absolutely make that change. The sooner they can make it, the better. But we have positions in place. We have a lot of steps in place to support new students. That's one of the things that I do in addition to being in charge of the literature department is keep an eye on new students, make sure that they understand what they're supposed to be doing, acclimate them, keep an eye on their grades. All of this.
The size of the school facilitates that a little bit.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
That's a pretty important thing.
It certainly does.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you a little bit about shifting gears a little bit into your role as board member of Northwest Classical.
Sure.
How do you assess that experience, and why did you decide to do that? We asked you, and you said yes.
That's right.
So what was your motivation?
Well, there's not much I would say no to at this point to see Liberty Classical Schools advance. But I was excited about the opportunity to launch a new school. I felt like this is what we're all about. We're all about making this opportunity available to more and more. Where the waiting list, as long as we are, it's pretty clear that this is a need, and we need to expand. We need to offer this to more and more people. More and more people want it. So the opportunity to serve on the governing board, I'm sort of the education voice on the governing board. I'm certainly not the financial input, although I do read the reports. And we have others who have different areas of expertise. But I love to keep my eye on just what are we doing in education here? What are we doing in the classroom? How's it going? What are we learning? One very unique thing about our classical schools is the role of the principal. I'll just say this for a second.
Yeah.
Our principals, thanks to our charter management organization, thanks to Liberty, our principals don't have to become needlessly bogged down in a lot of paperwork. I'm sure they would say there's plenty of paperwork, and I understand that there is, but a lot of compliance that goes along with being a public school, keeping up with that compliance can take away from a principal's job to coach and lead his teachers. That's the job of the principal, and our principals are able to do that. They're able to coach the teachers, to teach the teachers and help them develop in their pedagogy. And so I wanted to join the board of a new school so that I could help maintain that sort of spirit.
Yeah.
Make sure that continues to happen.
Yeah.
Running a public school, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Right.
Running a public school can be a lot of meetings and a lot of paperwork.
It can. It can be.
And it's important. If the government is going to give us funding, we should be accountable for every dime that we spend. That's the way it should work.
Yeah.
But as a board member, I love being able to oversee and sort of help manage the process that it does not become overwhelming for any one person.
Yeah. That is really important. Let me ask you, and you've touched on this a little bit, but as you know, we're launching our third school here just in the next month. And you've been a teacher, you've had leadership in the schools, you've been a director of a school. What advice would you give to our head of school or to the head of school of a new school? Mm-hmm. If you were saying, look, first year, your priority should be, what do you think? How would you
Well,
advise?
I'm a teacher, so I'm going to say your first priority should be the classroom.
Yeah.
What's happening in the classrooms?
Yeah.
Are the students learning what they need to learn? Are they behaving the way they're supposed to behave? That's what I care about.
Yeah.
Are we touching their hearts?
Yeah.
Are we winning their hearts?
Yeah.
It's a big ask.
That is a big ask. It's a lot of moving parts.
It is a lot.
Yeah, but that's the focus. We talk about one of our core virtues is that we esteem excellence in academic leadership, teaching, and learning. And I feel like making that the main thing is
keeping the main thing the main thing. Isn't that what we all struggle with? I mean, there are fires that have to be put out. But keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
And as a first year school and for everything's first, you're a salesman every single day. Mm-hmm. You get up in the morning and go to work and you're a salesman. You're selling the whole mission to your teachers. You're selling it to the students. You're selling it to the parents. You're selling it to the community. And I think that role of a visionary salesman is so important right at the beginning. It's all new. I mean, you can't expect anyone to know anything about what we're about.
That's right.
Everything has to be taught.
Very true. To bring in, 64 new employees in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And even at NCA, we have a fair number of new teachers. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly reminded of the need to, teach and coach around mission, vision, values constantly.
Right.
So
one of the things we talk about at ACA is just the minutes of the classroom. What are you going to do the first 10 minutes? But because it's upper school, so it's a 50-minute period. I know it's not the same in lower school, but what will you do the first 10 minutes? What will you do in the next 30 minutes? What will you do in the last 10 minutes? Just concrete. How will you serve this stewardship that you have, these 50 minutes? How will you make every single moment, bell to bell, wall to wall? How will you make every single moment aligned with the mission that you have to win the hearts and the minds of the students?
I love the intentionality of that. I love the purpose of that.
That's right.
I hope that resounds through the faculty. It's a beautiful concept, and it works, and it's effective. It's the right. I love the term stewardship you used. I think that's the essence of it, right? We have a stewardship. We have an opportunity and a limited, finite amount of time.
Right.
A school year and even childhood happens so quickly. Why not make the very most of it?
When I first started teaching, I thought of what I would cover each day.
Yeah.
Today, I will cover pages 20 to 27. Tomorrow, I will cover. What does that even mean to cover it?
Right.
So I've said things about it. I think needing to think more about what will the students take away today that I don't ever want them to forget. We've started asking this question on our final exams at Atlanta Classical. What do you never want to forget from this semester's study of literature? And reading what the students write, it's wonderful. And I just want to say, yes, don't forget that. That's what I want you to remember too.
What is your favorite book to teach and why?
Oh, wow. I said, that's a hard one because I love so many. I mean, I've been digging into Lord of the Flies and The Tempest, and I've been digging into Kill a Mockingbird, The Chosen. These are all in our 8th grade curriculum because I'll be teaching an 8th grade section this year.
Yeah.
So I think whatever I'm teaching at the moment is my favorite book to teach.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
And it really is true. I think the more you teach a book, the more you want to teach it because you see things that you didn't see before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have had the pleasure of knowing one of your children. I think you have 5.
I do have 5. Yep.
And I know some of your family, and I just think you're an incredible parent.
Well,
you have raised, at least in one
kind.
case I know of, and probably more, very well-adjusted, wise human being in your daughter. And
thank you.
I'm curious because I think we have a lot of families that are raising younger kids.
Right.
Kind of what are some words of wisdom that you could share about parenting? What are some things that you've done well?
Wow. I guess I would say I remember very well the years when all 5 were young and how exhausting it is and how overwhelming it can seem and how easy it is to just sort of let some things slide. Just, this is not the way I wanted it to go, but it's probably all right. And what I really appreciate about young parents today is their intentionality. I really appreciate the parents who are tired and they've worked all day and it is exhausting, but they are intentional and they say the easiest way is probably not the best way. And I need to be more intentional about this particular attitude in this child or this particular habit. I guess that would be, if I had one thing to sort of hold center front, it would be just remember that what's the easiest way is probably not the best way.
Yeah.
And the best way will probably be the harder way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's certainly true in our school.
You had a wonderful, I re-listened to your speech, and you had a wonderful paragraph in there of making the distinction between hard things and not hard things. Do you remember that part of your speech
not exactly.
Well, you were kind of making that point in the context. You were talking about the difference between what we ought to do and what we want to do.
Oh, I do remember that part. Yes, I absolutely remember that part.
And I thought that was a really beautiful.
We spoke about that because I was teaching American literature that year.
Okay.
And I had stepped into the American literature position because Aaron Sheps, my son-in-law, was in Scotland getting his master's degree. And so I sort of had taken on his load temporarily while he was gone. And American literature was one of those classes. And the Scarlet Letter was in our curriculum, as were other books. And we spoke so often as we read the Scarlet Letter about what the characters wanted to do versus what they ought to do. And I spoke often to the students. We would discuss how relevant that is to us. All day long, you are faced with choices between what you ought to do and what you want to do. And so the happy life, the good life, is when there is less and less divergence between those two.
Yes.
But there always will be some. There will always be moments that you ought to do what you don't want to do. And that's, to me, that's where I remember speaking about, that's where you need the courage to choose what you ought to do instead of what you want to do.
Yes. And that was one of the quotes I wrote down from I think you closed your speech, and I'll read this back to you because I thought this was really beautifully written. And I love that you are able to articulate this in such a concise, lovely way. But your charge or your prayer even perhaps for our graduating seniors. You said, may what you ought to do be what you want to do. And when it doesn't, may you have the courage to do it anyway.
That's right.
I
still believe that. And
yeah.
that is what I want for my own children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for my grandchildren and for my students and for myself. Yeah. We don't ever get to the point where we want to do all the things we ought to do.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's sort of an element. I'm reminded one of our first stated core values is this notion of the pursuit of the liberal arts life, if you will. And I think it's kind of embedded in that. It's sort of that constant pursuit of aligning the oughts and the wants, because there is happiness and virtue at the other end of that.
That's right. So. That's right. And that's not to suggest that such a life is just devoid of all pleasure. I mean, that's not that at all. But I think sometimes those things will be in conflict.
Yeah.
I think especially for teenagers, they're often in conflict.
Very much.
And so to make but there does become a pattern of making the right choices. You don't have to fight every single battle every time. You do get some credit for having made the right choice in this area so long that it does become more natural to you to do so. And that's what I want for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, okay, as we wrap up here and you look ahead to the next school year, what are you excited about? What's on the horizon for you in this
I
next
can't
year?
wait for a school year to start.
Yeah.
I can't wait to dig into To Kill a Mockingbird with my 8th graders. I can't wait to start writing. I can't wait to start reading the writing of my 9th graders. I'm actually one of those unusual people who I love to read student writing because they tell me things in their writing. That's when I really get to know the student. I really get to know what they think about Aeneas and his choices. I get to find out what they really think about the Iliad, and because I might not hear them say it in class.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to reading student writing. I'm looking forward to helping them sort of concretize their thoughts, learn how to write better, learn how to think better, because those are the same thing. Learn how to think better and how to write better and how to speak better. I love rhetoric. I have some experience teaching the AP language course, which is a rhetoric class. And I love helping students understand how to package what they believe. You know, I've been doing a lot of reading this summer on understanding how the other side thinks. It's in relation to the conflicts that we're experiencing in America right now.
Yeah.
And what's important, and I want our students to understand this. I want them to not have a simple close the door on that viewpoint because everybody who thinks that is wrong. I want them to have an understanding for what makes people think the way they think. And the main question would be, what am I missing in understanding you? What am I missing? And this is the key, I think, to why we don't have to worry about technology overtaking our students, because technology helps you answer the question, but if you don't know what to ask, technology doesn't always help you. And what I want our students to see is that what they know is a small piece of what is to be known. That's humility. They know a small piece of what is to be known. And I want them to have the burden to know how to ask the right questions to find out what they don't know, how to ask a person they think that they should write off. What am I missing? What's part of the big picture that I don't yet have to understand what you're saying?
Very beautifully put.
That's what I want them to do. I want our students, I don't want them to be closed-minded. None of us in the classical movement want our students to be closed-minded. We want them to be able to listen, understand, and articulate.
Yeah, very beautifully said. Well, Doris, I think you're just a model as a teacher. You've been a fabulous board member for Northwest Classical. I think you've added tremendous value to that school and will continue to do so. I think you're one of the best parents that I know of.
Thank you.
As on the basis of the quality of your family. And I just really I want to thank you for your service to our organizations, all of them that you've been a part of. I'm delighted to get to work with you on into the future. Looking forward to that.
As am I.
Yeah,
just keep it going.
That's right.
We need more.
We do need more. And mostly, I value your friendship. You're a wise friend and a mentor to me, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you for doing this with us.
Oh, of course, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, folks. Either on the end of this video or perhaps on another one, I do want to air the recording of the speech that you made, because I thought it was very beautifully written and very beautifully presented. And it's a great charge to any young person, but particularly one that may be finishing their high school experience, moving on into adulthood. And so we'll make that available to everybody. And to the rest of our guests, you can read more about us at libertyclassicalschools.org. I'm Matthew Kirby. This has been The Liberty Show, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.